scheduled to graduate next month. Her birthday's May the 10th. Sade Sheena, that's my baby.
Anderson and Robinson were meeting up for that first date on Monday, April 1st. They started at a Menominee Valley bar, the Twisted Fisherman, before heading over to Duke's on Water, which is in downtown Milwaukee. That phone is then traced to right here, Anderson's home at 39th in Oklahoma, and we know Robinson was never seen again.
Evil exists in this world. Trust no one.
This is the story of Sade Robinson, a beautiful, spirited, ambitious young woman who went on a first date with a sadistic psychopath and was murdered, dismembered, and dumped in various places. The story takes us to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a big, bustling city with a small-town feel on Lake Michigan's West Shore. Known for its breweries, beautiful architectural aesthetics, rich history, and lots of eateries, Sade was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi to her loving parents Sheena Scarborough and Carlos Robinson. At just before 2 years old, her mom moved with her to Milwaukee, where she spent most of her earlier years, but was also traveling back and forth between her dad in Florida and her mom in Milwaukee. In her early teens, Sade moved to Florida to live with her dad and attended the Ida S. Baker High School. But Sade was homesick, and within a few years she moved back to Milwaukee in late 2019 to live with her mom and completed her high school education at the Riverside University High School. After graduating high school, Sade matriculated at the Milwaukee Area Technical College in 2022, and she was 1 month away from achieving her associate's degree in criminal justice in May of 2024. Sade was very ambitious and had big plans for her life. At just 19 years old, Sade was able to work, bought her own car, got herself an apartment, and was saving and managing her money. As a young adult, she was eager to experience the world with a view from her own lens, and not only through media or other people's lens. She had looked forward to visiting places like Jamaica, and was able to accomplish that goal this past January 2024. Sade planned on enrolling in the U.S. Air Force, following in the footsteps of other veterans in her family, such as her grandfather, who served in the U.S. Navy, and her uncle, who served in the U.S. Army, and she planned on living a full life. She was working as a cashier at Pizza Shuttle since 2021, and was also working a second job at the Wisconsin Club, where she got her little sister Adriana Reams a job as well. Sade was loved and adored by her family. She was the dream daughter every mom and dad would have loved to have, the dream sister every sibling would love to have, and the best staff and co-worker any business owner and staff team would have loved to work with. From all accounts, Sade was an amazing human being. She looks out for others, and she takes initiative in getting things done. According to her mom, I was always so impressed by my daughter's initiative. Like when she graduated from high school a semester earlier after moving back from Florida, and when she surprised me by asking that I drive her to a job interview that I had no idea was even in the works. And in her dad's words, Sade was a beautiful, kind-hearted soul who would give her last to someone in need. Good spirit. And according to her workplace manager, Justin Romano, Sade was a vibrant, extroverted presence at Pizza Shuttle. Very outgoing, talked to everyone, and was always there to lighten the mood. On Easter Sunday, March 31st, 2024, Sade spent the day with her family at her grandma Linda Scarborough's house. Her mama Sheena cooked up some delicious meals, and they all ate and talked and had fun together as they always do. After their celebration, they all separated and went to their respective homes. They had no idea that that would be the last time they ever saw Sade. The next day, Monday, April 1st, 2024, Sade agreed to meet up with a man she met online and had been communicating with for a while. His name is Maxwell Steven Anderson. He was 33 years old. They'd been having great conversations, and Sade was looking forward to having an amazing first date with him after work. She was really liking Maxwell's vibe and decided she was going to have a great time at dinner and see where the evening goes. So that morning when she got dressed for work, she was most particular about her looks. And while video chatting with her mom about their day's activities as they always do, she decided to wear ripped blue jeans, white shirt, and white shoes, with a black puffy coat to finish off her looks. As it was approaching 9 a.m., Sade walked out of her bedroom, smiling as she took one last look in her entryway mirror, before stepping out and locking her door. And as she got downstairs to the lobby, she saw CAS, the building secretary, and after a brief chit-chat told her how excited she was to be going on her first date with Maxwell later that day. At around 4:15 p.m., Sade reached out to Maxwell wanting to find out where they were meeting and suggesting she could do 5 p.m. Maxwell replied, downtown somewhere? Before suggesting, Brat House on 3rd, to which Sade replied, perfect. Maxwell then explained that he's going to shower and would probably get there around 5:15 p.m. Then asked Sade, are you hungry? I need to stop at Twisted Fisherman to pick up my W-2 form from last year and we could eat there first. Okay and yes, Sade replied before becoming puzzled about where they were going to eat. So she asked him, are we eating at the Brat House or the other place? Let's eat at Twisted. I'm feeling seafood, Maxwell replied. To which Sade affirmed, yes, I love seafood. Then Maxwell texted, sounds good. I'm about to leave. I'll be there soon. And Sade replied, okay. A few minutes later, Maxwell texted, just got to Twisted. And Sade responds, okay, are you inside? Yes, Maxwell replied. Maxwell had gotten there at 5:09 p.m., and Sade got there at 5:20 p.m. They meet and greeted each other and chit-chat a bit before placing their order. They enjoyed their meal and meet-up, and Maxwell suggested they finish their evening off with a few drinks. They then left the restaurant in Sade's car, with Sade at the wheel at 6:29 p.m., and head over to Duke's on Water Bar, arriving there at 6:35 p.m. They had a couple drinks and chatted some more, seemingly enjoying each other's company, and somehow, they both ended up at Maxwell's house at 9:24 p.m., entering the house using the back gate and not the front. He may have drugged her, or she went there willingly, but Sade went in, and she never came out. No one, except Maxwell, knows what happened inside that house that night between the hours of 9:24 p.m. and 12:47 a.m. The neighbors did not notice anything strange or heard any loud noise. It could be that he took her to his sex dungeon in his basement, where no one would be able to hear even the loudest of screams. But early the next morning, at 12:47 a.m., Maxwell loaded Sade's body parts in her car trunk, along with the clothing she was wearing the day before and her iPhone, then drove around the city carefully placing pieces of her body parts in a different location. He started out by driving in the direction of Sade's home, then continuing on to a roadway near Kem Park on the Milwaukee River adjacent to Pleasant Valley Park at 3305 Marina Road, and was there for 23 minutes, disposing of her torso, arms, her upper body. He then left that location at 2:01 a.m., driving to 5252 South Lake Drive at Warnemont Park, arriving there at 2:53 a.m., where he walked along the beach leaving pieces of her lower body, including her right leg, and was there for an hour and 42 minutes. He then left that area at 4:35 a.m., driving to 30th and Lisbon, where he doused the interior of Sade's car with gasoline, then tossing a lighter in it, catching it on fire at 7:30 a.m., but not before walking to an area near a playground at 31st and Galena and disposing of Sade's left foot and the rest of her body parts, including pieces of her flesh. He then spread open a memorial blanket Sade had of her dog Coco Chanel, who passed, which also has a pic of Sade on it, and left it on the ground. He then walked a few blocks to 35th and Lisbon, got on a bus at 8:12 a.m., paying his fare with cash, and head back to his house, arriving through the back alley behind his house at 8:43 a.m. At around 7:32 a.m., authorities got a call that a car was seen burning in an alleyway at 30th and Lisbon on Milwaukee's north side.
It was catching on fire, and all of a sudden it's getting bigger, so I called the fire department, and they then you can hear the alarm going off in the car. the airbags exploding.
Patricia Newton-Powell says a car caught fire in the alley behind her house at 30th and Lisbon around 7:30 Tuesday morning. She doesn't think the fire started on its own.
It looks like somebody had started it. Nothing else was smoking outside the car, so it started in the inside.
They rushed over to the area and saw the burnt-out 2020 Honda Civic. The interior of the car was completely damaged, but the exterior was intact, including the registration sticker on the car, which authorities were able to use later on to identify the owner as Sade Robinson. Later that morning, Tuesday, April 2nd, Sade did not show up to work for her shift, which was unusual since she never missed work unless she's on vacation or have notified them of a time off. The manager and other staff members tried to reach her throughout the morning, but became concerned when they couldn't.
Today marks exactly 1 week since 19-year-old Sade Carlina Robinson went missing.
I was the manager on duty when she didn't show that day. It wasn't like her at all, and we kind of knew something was up. We had been calling her all day.
Pizza shuttle catering manager Justin Romano says Robinson always put a smile on her coworkers' faces.
Very outgoing. She would talk to everybody here. She was always there to lighten the mood. She and I started at the same time here.
Her disappearance has been hard on everyone who's worked with her for the past 3 years.
We all worried about her. We scared. It's kind of hard to get through the day.
Authorities say she was last seen near the area of Pleasant and Commerce on April 1st. They think she was wearing a black coat, white hoodie, blue jeans, and white shoes. Milwaukee police say no one's been arrested in connection to her disappearance.
And if you have anything, if you know anything, if you see anything, please just speak up, let us know, reach out to the proper authorities.
And as it was approaching the end of the day and still no response from Sade, a staff member, AJ, who is also a friend, decided to go to her house after her shift ended. The first thing she noticed was that Sade's car was not there, and after knocking on her door and calling out to her and getting no response, AJ decided to go to the police station and have them do a welfare check. She had received a Snapchat from Sade on the eve of April 1st, sharing that she was at Duke's on Water Sports Bar, but that was the last contact she had with her. As all of this was going on, Sade's mom and other family members were using their Life 360 tracking app to track Sade's location. They had already reported Sade missing and given the authority important information they would need, but they were not going to wait for authorities to begin their search. The app pointed them to all the locations Sade had been the day before, and they decided they would start searching at the last place the app showed Sade was at. Sade's cell phone battery had died while Maxwell was at Warnemont Park, and so that was the last location that showed up on the Life 360 app that Sade was. So the family, along with a few friends, head out to Warnemont Park in search of Sade. As they got there and began searching, they got the call that Sade's car had been found burnt out at 30th and Lisbon. They quickly head over to the area, and Sheena's heart sank when she saw the burnt-out car. She knew that that was not a good sign. A few hours later, authorities received a call from a man stating that a woman's right leg with pink toenails had been spotted on the beach at Warnemont Park in Cudahy, 11 miles from where Sade's burnt-out car was found. Authorities rushed to the scene at around 5:29 p.m. and found the leg, which had been cut off just below the hip socket. Detectives were able to get surveillance footage from Cudahy High School, which was close by, which shows a vehicle entering the area at around 2:53 a.m. The vehicle breached the gate to get closer to Lake Michigan Beach, and authorities were able to recover broken pieces of the vehicle that belonged to a Honda Civic. Authorities were also able to get surveillance footage from the pump house in the location where the leg was found, which shows a human figure going down to the beach at around 3:02 a.m. The figure made multiple attempts to walk between the beach and the service drive for the pump house, and at approximately 4:31 a.m., the vehicle left the park. The next morning, Wednesday, April 3rd, unaware that the leg they had found the previous day belonged to Sade, authorities went to Sade's home to perform a welfare check. Sade was not inside. She was nowhere to be found. Her mom had gotten a text from her phone on the night of April 1st asking her for $15. She thought it was very odd since Sade makes good money and doesn't ask for money. However, she sent the $15 to her through Cash App because she thought, well, maybe she needed it to buy her favorite seafood at JJ Fish and Chicken. After sending the money, Sheena received a text saying thank you, I love you. Meanwhile, authorities were working quickly to identify whose leg was found the previous day. And while investigators were at Sade's home contemplating what could be happening, they got a call that the DNA samples for the leg was done, and it was confirmed to be that of Sade's. This news was a game changer. Instead of looking for Sade alive, they realized they may actually be looking for Sade not only dead, but in pieces. The leg, according to the medical examiner, showed multiple cutting impressions around the amputation point, as well as sharp force trauma to the exposed femur bone, which indicated that the leg was intentionally severed with a sharp instrument, including the bone being sawn halfway through. When Sade's mom got the news that the leg they had found the previous day belonged to Sade, she was devastated.
The sick son of a hurt my baby. She hurt nobody. She harmed nobody.
A mother's worst nightmare had come true. She was so hurt and traumatized by the news she could not continue with the search. But her family, friends, and community members kept the search going in the hopes of finding all of Sade.
Try to look up the bluff and down on the ground. Y'all know what y'all looking for? Yes. Okay.
Later that day, authorities interviewed a woman who identified herself as Sade's friend ASF. She told them she became aware Sade was missing from the news, and upon checking the Life 360 app that Sade's family and close friends use to keep abreast of each other's locations, it showed that Sade's cell phone was in Warnemont Park around 4:33 a.m. Previous day, April 2nd. The authorities collected the records from ASF, and they had already collected SLS from Sade's mom Sheena earlier on. At this point, authorities had already accessed Sade's phone records, as well as surveillance video footages in multiple locations Maxwell had been to. And they also accessed surveillance footage from Maxwell's neighbor, which showed him in his backyard going back and forth between the house and Sade's car, from 11:25 p.m. on April 1st to 12:45 a.m. on April 2nd, which means Sade was dead within 2 hours of arriving at Maxwell's house.
A criminal complaint released Friday says investigators used her cell phone records to follow her movements the night before on April 1st for what was supposed to be a first date with Anderson. After dinner and drinks, Robinson's phone was tracked to Anderson's home for 3 hours. An hour later, her phone pinged at Kern Park. And then following a drive across the city, its last trace to Warnemont Park, the same spot investigators found that severed leg. April 2nd, the Milwaukee police found Robinson's car torched near 31st and Lisbon, her clothes and phone in the trunk. 12 News has since learned footage from a city bus near that time and place captured Anderson.
After reviewing the phone records, surveillance footages, and witness accounts, they realized the evidence were connecting one person to Sade, and that was Maxwell Steven Anderson. So on April 4th, 2024, Maxwell was arrested at a traffic stop just a few blocks from his house and taken into custody as a person of interest.
New exclusive video appears to capture the moment investigators took Maxwell Anderson into custody near his home at 39th in Oklahoma, following a whirlwind investigation that started April 2nd.
Milwaukee County 911 dispatch received a call from Cudahy Police Department regarding a severed leg at Warnemont Park. Subsequently, a Milwaukee police officer who was aware of our investigation raised the possibility that the leg may be related to a missing person investigation that they were conducting.
That missing person? Sade Robinson.
A search of his vehicle turned up his dark gray zip-up hooded coat he was seen wearing on surveillance at the location of Sade's burnt-out car. But all of this was not yet enough to charge Maxwell. Authorities then secured a search warrant and did a search of Maxwell's house, located at 3161 South 39th Street. They found blood on the bedding in one of the bedrooms and on the walls leading to the basement, and they saw several gasoline containers in the garage storage area, amongst other things. It was later determined that the blood in the house, on the bedding and wall, was not Sade's. Detectives worked throughout the night combing through the remaining surveillance footages they were able to secure from the Milwaukee County Transit System, as well as from Lisbon Liquor and Food Mart that's located in the vicinity of where Sade's car was found. They were able to see Maxwell's movements in that area, including him moving away from the lit car and subsequently getting on a bus. On Friday, April 5th, 2024, armed with more information based on the surveillance footages they went over the previous night, authorities went back to the location where Sade's car had been burnt and began canvassing the surrounding area. And there, in the wooded area, 1 block south of Sade's car near a train track that borders the playground at 31st and Galena, they found a female left foot with the same pink toenails as the right leg they had found earlier on, and a piece of human flesh. This was unbearable news for Sade's mom. She was already devastated knowing her beautiful daughter was missing and her car burnt out. But her body in pieces and scattered all over the county was too much for her. Imagining the trauma she might have experienced, she began to grapple with the thought that there are people in this world evil enough to do something like this to someone who has done absolutely nothing to them.
This sick son of a is gonna pay.
Barely speaking above a whisper.
This is justice for Sade.
And fighting back tears.
Who the would do something like this to my beautiful baby?
Sheena Scarborough.
She hurt nobody.
Was pushing forward for her daughter, 19-year-old Shad Robinson.
She said she had no idea Sade was connecting with Maxwell, and that he doesn't seem like the type of person Sade would hang around. On Saturday, April 6th, after hearing the news that more body parts were found in the vicinity where Sade's car had been found, Sade's family and friends decided to go back there and search again. They found Sade's tribute blanket on the ground in an area in the bushes, and on Tuesday, April 9th, as Sade's family continued their search in Warnemont Park, Cudahy, they found what they believed to be human remains. But it has not been confirmed by authorities if they were, and if they were Sade's remains. On Thursday, April 18th at around 7:37 a.m., a man was walking along Lake Michigan Beach in the location of 3305 Marina Road when he stumbled upon a human torso and arm that seemed to have washed ashore. He quickly alerted authorities who came and took the body parts away for DNA identification. As of April 18th, 2024, authorities have in their possession a right leg, a left foot, a torso, along with an arm and some human flesh. And while they believe all body parts belong to Sade, they have only confirmed the right leg to be hers after completing DNA testing. Sade's family, friends, and neighbors are continuing their search of the areas Maxwell drove to in the early morning hours of April 2nd.
Welcome. She looked out for my baby. The least I could do is look out for her mama's baby.
We need to do whatever we can to bring her home. Until we find out what we need to find out, we just come out and you just keep pushing forward. And we let the experts come and decide, determine what they know. And we're just eyes and the ears on the ground.
Grit and determination through grief. Another day of searching for Sade Robinson's remains and searching for closure for her family.
I think everybody's just overwhelmed.
Tracking through water and mud, Robinson's cousin sits in Warnemont Park after searching all day, too exhausted to go on camera.
It's just tiring because we're not getting anywhere. But our family needs peace and we need closure, so I don't want to stop. People want to get on the water because obviously she might be in the water and we don't have the resources.
Authorities have also said they were continuing their search for the remaining parts of Sade's body and using boats to check if any of her body parts are at sea. In light of all the overwhelming evidence pointing to Maxwell Anderson, he was later charged on April 12th with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and arson. He has since pleaded not guilty and is currently being held at the Milwaukee County Jail on a $5 million bond, which he would need to pay in full in order to be released, pending his trial.
In a gruesome murder mystery that's gripped the Milwaukee area for more than a week now. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jessa Brycebeck.
And I'm Amanda Porterfield. This morning, Maxwell Anderson was charged with murdering and dismembering 19-year-old Sade Robinson. The charges link two stories we've been covering for more than a week. The missing woman, Robinson, and body parts discovered in several locations throughout the city and county.
We have team coverage for you tonight of this breaking news. CBS 58's Taj Mahal and Bryant McRae will have details on the investigation, but we start with Adam Reif. Adam.
And this home is where prosecutors say Maxwell Anderson killed Sade Robinson after the two went on a date last Monday. Now, this case is bringing into light the story that has simmered in the shadows for days. While a concerned family was looking for a missing woman, Body parts were turning up all across the city of Milwaukee. And now we have more information on why. Prosecutors say Anderson and Sade Robinson went out to 2 restaurants and bars the night of April 1st, then returned to Anderson's home on South 39th Street. They say at some point that night, Anderson killed Robinson, dismembered her body, then drove her car around while he scattered the body parts in various places.
The allegations in the complaint are abhorrent. It was the highest level of violence imaginable.
Anderson also did Sade's car and lit it on fire. He spoke just once during Friday's hearing.
Do you understand the maximum potential penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anderson's attorney first tried to get the homicide charge thrown out.
And there's nothing in here that says that she died at Mr. Anderson's home.
Sade's mother again lashed out.
So I'd ask you to dismiss that count before we address.
Anderson's attorney then alluded to Anderson being innocent.
Had Mr. Anderson been involved in this horrible tragedy, we would expect one to flee.
But bail was ultimately set at $5 million.
Maxwell Steven Anderson has had a privileged life growing up, with his father Steven Anderson being a wealthy businessman. And we hope that with all the evidence pointing to his son, he will not bail him out but allow him to take full responsibility for the consequences of his actions. Money and privilege does not make a person. If anything, it could turn them into spoiled brats. But if that wasn't Maxwell, somewhere along the line, he fell off and started bar hopping as a bartender in random clubs and bars, his latest being the questionable Victor's nightclub. Here's what one attendee had to say about her experience there, though it was written in 2009. Her title, Victors or Victims. I might not be a native to this fine industrial city of vacant warehouses and peaking church steeples, but I've learned fast. Don't drink Budweiser in public, for one. And the lakefront brewery tour is the bee's knees. Some learning came from pleasant experiences, but not all nightlife adventures can be so sweet. Co-workers, new friends, and a long-winded landlord made it known early that certain bars are for certain people, that particular neighborhoods draw particular crowds, and that prostitutes and crackheads have been known to haunt the late-night crowd at Victor's. I had my first Victor's experience this New Year's Eve, and aside from the well-timed and quickly devoured hot dog sold inside after paying an absurd $10 cover, I was horrified. The lights and the mirrors played tricks with my perception. I was convinced the bar was endless. I became dizzy. It could have been the whiskey. And, unaware of my own body, I performed an awkward dance for a few minutes. The booze were straight out of some mobster movie, and I was drowning in the scent of cologne and vomit. Everyone seemed to be crawling, hiding in shady corners, or hovering. Whatever your definition of normal human interaction, Victor's was lacking. Zombie-like forms were drooling, looking to score, forcing themselves to stay awake. Once I found the door, I decided my New Year's had to come to an end. The funny thing is that my companions stressed that attending Victor's on New Year's Eve is a Milwaukee tradition. This I will never understand. A coworker assured me that Wisconsin traditions are just an excuse to get drunk at a shitty bar. She, along with many others, referred to this Milwaukee staple as victims. Never again. This is the kind of place Maxwell found fitting and thrived in. And then a woman who says she met Maxwell at Victor's nightclub and visited his house in the fall said she saw a massive hole in Maxwell's backyard. When asked, said he was building a garden, with a hole deep enough to swallow a whale, looking like it was leading underground. And when she got inside the house, she said it looked as though it was under renovation, and that after he showed her around, Maxwell asked her if she wanted to see the basement, and she declined.
Hannah, you've been looking into his past all day long.
Yeah, Joyce and Patrick, and we have uncovered a lot, including Anderson's ties to Waukesha County and what sources are telling us investigators found inside this home exactly 1 week ago. Who is Maxwell Anderson? We know he's a Southside resident whose house at 39th in Oklahoma was searched by investigators 2 days after someone found a severed leg on the Lake Michigan shore in Cudahy. For the last few years, he's worked at several Milwaukee bars.
He works full-time,
including The Rave from 2018 to 2020, most recently working at Victor's nightclub on the east side. A woman who claims she met Anderson there spoke to 12 News by phone, but asked not to be identified out of fear for her safety. She says he once invited her to his Southside home.
I remember there being something about a hole in the yard, and this was back in fall. I remember asking about it, and he was like, oh, I'm building a garden.
In a view from News Chopper 12,
All right, that looks like a hole there, actually.
A gaping hole next to Anderson's house was visible earlier this week. Inside the home,
And when I got in, it just kind of seemed like he was in the middle of a whole bunch of renovations, but kind of seemed like the kind of guy that never would finish them.
Thursday, 12 News learned from multiple law enforcement sources Anderson had what is described as a sex dungeon in his basement.
So I got a little bit of a tour, and he was like, "Do you want to see the basement?" And I was like, "No, I'm okay." He's like, "It's creepy down there." And I was like, "No, that's okay."
And Maxwell has a bit of rap sheet for being violent. In 2014, a misdemeanor disorderly conduct and domestic abuse charge and conviction after an incident with a family member. In 2015, a relative suggested he seek out mental health treatment, and he smashed a glass, punched a hole in a wall, and grabbed the phone out of another relative's hand who was trying to call police. He was arrested and convicted for disorderly conduct, intimidating a witness, domestic abuse, and criminal damage to property.
Anderson has a criminal record, a 2014 misdemeanor disorderly conduct conviction in Waukesha County after an incident with a family member in Delafield, and in 2015, a misdemeanor domestic violence case out of Door County.
And in 2019, misdemeanor battery and disorderly conduct charges for beating a stranger who was trying to stop him from beating on a woman. Like the son of Sam David Berkowitz, in describing the murder of one of his 5 female victims, stated, "I wanted to destroy her because of what she represented. A pretty girl, a threat to me, to my masculinity, and she was a child of God, God's creation." It seems Maxwell Anderson wanted to devalue, humiliate, and destroy Sade because he thought she was too beautiful, too nice, too ambitious, and had too much going for her. Sade was a representation of what Maxwell couldn't be, a bright light, and he wanted to put that out for good in the most demeaning way possible. He tortured her, cut her in pieces, and distributed her throughout the city in places where he knew she would be easily found, naked and disfigured. A sadistic psychopath. Quite a few young women have gone missing in Milwaukee in recent years, and they haven't been found. And Sade's mom, Sheena, in the height of her grief, is vowing that they will get justice too.
I never expected this to pull up on my front door. This isn't normal. This is a 2024 Jeffrey Dahmer. I need him held accountable. I need justice for Sade. There has been many black and brown girls that have been gone missing in Milwaukee for a moment. And all of them are going to be held accountable now. Because they mess with the wrong family. They mess with the wrong family because we're not going to sit quiet and we're not going to sit still. And we're going to call all of them out and we're going to speak for the whole community. Because I'm not about to sit down and I'm not about to sit still on this one. It's justice for Sade, Nancy.
This should be a good place for authorities to begin looking at Maxwell Anderson. Sade was loved and will be missed by so many people. Her co-worker, Erica, wrote, "We miss you, Sade. We were family and friends. You made our day at Pizza Shuttle. It was never a dull moment when you were around. If somebody was having a bad day, you're most definitely the person to go to with your positivity. You bring so much positive energy with every word that you speak, and not to mention the hugs you offered everyone. And every day before you left, you made sure you told everyone that you loved them and to be careful going home. The tears won't stop because I know you never deserve this. She is the true definition of innocent. I'm praying for your family and friends that ever came in contact with your warm arms and words of positivity. We love and miss you, girl." Her mom, Sheena, wrote, "My babies are such angels and have been raised to help others in this evil world. Sade was 1 in a million. Her sister and our family are beyond devastated to have her taken from us like this. She touched so many individuals while on this earth. Love you, angel daughter, eternally, always." And her dad is beside himself.
She was a good soul, good spirit. She did not deserve what this. I was still hoping that my little girl was still here. That's all I had to hope for. And when they called me and told me that my DNA was a match, my world crashed down. She just like me, like to laugh, put smiles on people's face. She was my oldest. She physical pain.
A parent to have to deal with this type of trauma and tragedy is inconceivable. It's almost like I wake up to live in a nightmare every day.
Do you know how Sade met Maxwell Anderson?
No, I don't know for sure. He's definitely not my daughter's type. I don't know. I got so many questions I can't answer. They came here to get my DNA to match up. I was hoping that it wasn't her, what they found.
What is it like every time they find a body part to get that notification?
It's like I want to know everything, but then I don't know if I can handle it. It's devastating. She was a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Her sister's pain, palpable.
She was the strongest person I know, and the kindest person I know, and the most beautiful person I know, but she never deserves it.
And after reckoning with the fact that this evil has happened, her uncle needs closure.
My sister and parents won't stop shaking, and it ain't because they're nervous. Imagine trying to bury your niece with no body for the service.
Sade was a vibrant, kind-hearted young woman who saw the good in everyone and wanted the best for everyone. The world has lost a gem, another gem, and we should mourn because with each passing day, our gems are being taken away and we are being left with evil, demonic entities that seems to have no idea how to do anything else but bring hurt and harm to good people. After Sade got back from her well-planned solo trip, she wrote, "Jamaica was the best vacation I can ever go on. My first out-of-the-country trip and I had a blast at only 19. Although I was quite nervous going out the country alone, it was all worth it and a great way to start the new year. Cheers to new beginnings because this is what I worked hard for. Last semester was so stressful for me because I was taking 5 classes while working 60 to 80 hours a week and still managed to end the semester with a 3.5 grade point average. I am beyond proud of myself, and I will do it all again. Hard work pays off. Even when you feel unmotivated, always keep that motivation going because I mentally wanted to have a mental breakdown, putting myself under a lot of stress. But I did it and pulled through, and it was all worth it. No matter how hard something could be, just remember it's not impossible. So go on those trips you always wanted to go on, or do something you always wanted to do, because life is too short. Like I said, I'm only 19, and even though I travel, I still have my own responsibilities. I have my own car, my own apartment, my own bills, and still have to support me. So before traveling, some advice I will give is always take care of your priorities first, then travel second. I hope this can motivate someone to do what they love to do or always wanted to do. It doesn't even have to be traveling, but a hobby you always wanted to do. Go for it. So encouraging and positive and real. Sharing the good, but also sharing how difficult it can be while getting to the good. We don't know if Sade went willingly to Maxwell's house or if she was drugged and taken there. But we know that there are young women out here doing just that. So, young women, please stop going to strange men's houses. You do not know what you'll experience, and once you get inside, no one can help you then. And don't take them to your house. You are no match for their strength. A lot of people are dark-hearted, and you cannot tell which ones are just by looking at them.
There are people that do evil, and it appears that he is one of those people, for whatever the reason, committed a horrendous crime. And not only did he kill her, apparently, but dismembering her is just beyond belief, something that's almost impossible to talk about.
If you must meet with a strange man, meet him in a public place, and let a loved one know where you're going, who you're meeting with, and the time you're expected to be back. And if your date is to go eating, pay attention to your food and drinks at all times. It only takes a second to pop something in your food or drink, and you may be able to walk out of there like you're all good depending on the drug they use. Some takes a while to kick in, but when you're knocked out, you won't know what is happening, or you may be able to feel the pain of what they're doing to you, but unable to move your body parts to do anything about it, like Jeffrey Dahmer did his victims. I personally did not like the fact that Sade agreed to go with him to eat at a place he used to work. I think they should have gone to a neutral place where neither of them knew the employees. Parents, you cannot afford to allow your teens to continue to be naive. Sit with your teens and read or watch videos about stories like this, and use those moments to speak on what is happening in the stories, what the victims did wrong, and what they should have done. Of course, you do not know your kids' mental state to the extent of how much they can and cannot take in, but imagine them going out into the world with the view that people are intrinsically and inherently great and the world safe, only to be caught off guard with a monster like this. You have to prepare them before they leave your home as young adults by showing them what's happening and letting them know the world isn't safe and people are not to be trusted. Some of these men are masters at identifying, luring and deceiving their prey, and it can sometimes be very hard to tell their intention, even after having several interactions with them. So the general rule is, if you must meet with a strange man, meet in a public space. No hotels, do not go to their house, and do not let them in yours. Teach your children to listen to their gut, their intuition, and never ignore that feeling. Please bring this to your young people's attention. This is really happening. It is not a joke, and it's not an out there phenomenon. It's happening right in our communities. If it happens to anybody else, it could happen to you if you do not take precaution. And how about as soon as you both meet on the date, you take a selfie with him and immediately share it to social media, so he knows others know who you're with. And take note of his reaction as you do. Is he tense? Is he secretly angry? And if he refused to take the selfie, giving lame excuses, you know you need to get away from him. One can only imagine the devastation Sade's mom, Sheena, is experiencing right now, having something so horrific and horrendous happen to her child. And especially not knowing what her daughter experienced at the hands of that wicked and evil monster that night. What was her last moments like? What was her last words? How much did she suffer before dying? What really happened that evening? Did she go to his house voluntarily? Was she fully cognizant? Was she drugged? Was she raped? Was she dead while he was dismembering her? Or was she feeling the cuts and screaming for dear life? Did he take her to his sex dungeon in his basement? Did he do too much in his dungeon and she accidentally died? Then he panicked and cut her up and disposed of her? How? Did he kill her? Where did he kill her? Why did he kill her? Why did he place her body parts in multiple locations throughout the city? And why did he place her body parts in public spaces, parks? These are all pressing questions that remain unanswered. But we will revisit this case as they hopefully locate the rest of Sade's body parts, or enough so that an autopsy can be done, and more details about what really happened come forward. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Scarborough and Robinson families as they navigate what will be one of their worst experiences in this lifetime. We hope every piece of Sade will be located, and soon, so her family can have a proper burial and find some form of peace. May Sade's precious soul rest in peace, and may her family find the strength to get through this tragic tragedy, and in the end get the justice they desire and deserve. Please contribute to their GoFundMe if you can. I will put a link to their page in the description. What would you have done if you've been invited on a first date as a precaution to ensure what happened to Sade did not happen to you? Think about it, then share in the comments. And please like, share, and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe out there. And remember, trust no one.
Sade Robinson's voice will not go unheard.
Rather than the person who took it.
And giving us the will to keep on living and moving on.